How do we look and feel our best and still be comfortable and authentic in what we're wearing? Our guest today is Ellie Steinbrink, and she is an expert stylist and personal brand coach. And she is the owner of Style Decoded, and she works virtually out of her home in Omaha, Nebraska. She's a Midwest born fashion lover on a mission to help professional women show up as the bosses that they are without all the hassle. Oh, I love that. And today we are going to talk about how to embrace our authentic style and feel 100% confident in our own skin. So, Ellie, welcome to Leaders Transformation. We're glad you're here today.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm excited about this.
Yes, me too. And when we were talking before, we hit it off so well, and we were talking about a whole bunch of different things. And it was kind of a little bit cathartic and therapeutic for me, even just to talk about it. So I know this is going to be a great conversation. Let's start off with why, how we dress is so important to us.
Yeah. I can remember back just talking about the idea of clothes and how they affect you. Okay. So I can remember back all the way to when I was a little girl and I would get a new dress or I would I was playing dress up or something. And I would have that sort of, light as air feeling. I'd be twirling around and just like so much energy. And, that happened a lot as a little girl, but even as I got older, I would notice this shift in me. And I think, even listeners, as you're thinking back to your own experiences, times in your life when you put on something that made, that you really loved, or maybe it was a color that you really love, or just a shape or a fabric that feels really good to you. When you put it on, there's just like this kind of, this lighter than air, I guess, feeling or energetic feeling that sort of propels you throughout your day. And I had experienced this multiple times in my life, as I mentioned, all the way back to when I was a little girl, but continuing on into my working life where I was going to various different meetings and needing to show up, and that depending on what I put on, it kind of gave me that extra boost of energy I needed to show up in the way I needed to show up, or to be more of a social butterfly. I'm naturally an introvert. So, to like kind of bring me out of my shell. And it wasn't until just the recent, let's say 3-4 years ago, I discovered research that actually started to explain why I always have these feelings. And there's a couple things to note. One is that there's real brain science happening when you're putting clothes on, and how it goes is this. It's very simple to explain. We don't need to get into the scientific terms, but when you have a feeling, your brain activates. So good or bad, you have a feeling, your brain activates and sends chemicals throughout your entire body. So, let's say you have a great feeling, happy, elated, excited, whatever that feeling is, your brain's going to activate and then send good chemicals throughout your body. And of course, the opposite is true. If you have a bad feeling, your brain activates and sends those bad chemicals throughout your body. And research actually shows that if you're sustaining those bad feelings over a long period of time and your brain's activating and sending those bad chemicals throughout your body, it can lead to increased chances of depression or anxiety, which kind of makes me think back to, the pandemic days. And there was a lot of reasons for depression and anxiety, I think, at that time. But it starts to explain, this feeling I was having as a little girl and as I grew up and in various points of my life. Because when you think about those days when you go into your closet, let's give the example of a day that maybe more of us can relate to, which is walking into your closet and you don't feel especially excited about what you got there. Maybe you're at a point where not a lot is fitting you, or just you're wearing things that are appropriate for whatever your role in your company or your business is, but maybe you're not all that excited about it, or maybe you're just, for whatever reason, you just have a disconnect with your clothes. So on those days, you go to put something on and you might have a neutral feeling, or you might have a full-on negative experience right there in your closet, which has happened to me many, many times. That frustration, that sometimes anger, maybe shame or guilt or whatever those emotions that are coming up. And you stop to think about how the rest of your day goes. I know for me personally, when it doesn't go so well in the closet, I can be short with my spouse or my kids. I don't like to admit it, but it's true. And, there on those days, maybe I'm less likely to show up. And so when I say show up, I mean, maybe I'm not putting my Zoom camera on. Maybe if I'm going into the office, I'm kind of hiding and cowering at my desk. I'm not moving around the office and talking with team members. I'm not reaching out to people, from a new business perspective. I just kind of hide. And then you contrast that with a day where you go to your closet and you do have something you're really excited to put on that makes you feel really good. And it's a wholly different experience, isn't it? And if we think hard enough, we can probably think of both examples. Maybe there's one more than the other. But those days, man, am I excited to turn on my Zoom camera. I'm like, great, I did myself up. I want to show my face. I want to connect with people. I want to go out to lunch with a friend. I want to reach out to that new business contact, that I've been trying to work up the courage to reach out to. And comparing those 2 days is quite a difference. And so this idea that clothes really are kind of meaningless, they're sort of a frivolous, like you don't really need to pay much attention to them, I don't subscribe to. And now I've got the brain science to show me that there is real things happening that can either shift your day, towards the negative and towards hiding and maybe not feeling as productive. Maybe your energy is a little low, to actually being a catalyst for propelling you forward.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that when you said about being in your closet. And I was thinking about, a lot of women, I'm sure, and men experience that, but like women, they're throwing stuff. I don't do that necessarily where I'm throwing stuff, and you kind of see those in the movies, right? Where the women's throwing all the clothes, I have nothing to wear,
Yeah.
and the reality is she's got like tons of clothes. But you think about how often women in particular we don't feel good about ourselves. We feel like we're not measuring up to the bulletin board, the ideal of what a woman should look like. And we have this disconnect, and here we are trying to wear clothes and trying to somehow psychologically, we're comparing ourselves to something. I think there's a lot going on there that we devalue, or we underestimate, I should say, like you were saying. And so that is so true. And it's kind of like it's an expression of ourselves, and if we're forced to wear something that doesn't feel good, or we're conforming to some kind of norm as to what we're supposed to wear, then we feel that we're almost living a bit of a lie, because this is really not me. But I feel like I have to do this. And we were talking about the fact that when I grew up, it was, women, and I was in an organization, business organization, and women wore skirts, and I didn't want to wear skirts, but I wore skirts. And then after a while, I got to the point where I'm not wearing a skirt because that's what I've decided, and it became a rebellious thing, because I got tired of doing what other people were telling me to do. And it's such a subtle thing. And it's not like somebody said, you have to do this, do or die. But there was an expectation of that. And if you didn't do that, and that happens a lot in the corporate world, if people measure people up, and you go into a boardroom and they're checking you out, and especially women, but men do it too, where they're checking each other. So all this stuff is going on. And I think about all the energy that is lost and the focus that is lost, which could be otherwise focused on innovation and creativity and building relationships and doing the thing that you're actually there to do.
Yeah. I think it becomes I like all of this that you're saying, because it highlights the fact that your clothes they can be a real distraction. And, in order for it to not be a distraction, you want to feel most at home with what you're wearing. And in those times where you either think you have to wear something, or you're told you're supposed to wear something, that dissonance is there. And so when I'm, working with my clients on this, it's kind of there's a two-parter. Even what you were just saying, it brings up two things. So what we were just talking about with the brain science and kind of connecting with, how do my clothes actually make me feel? That's kind of one part, is just becoming more aware of when you get dressed in the morning and you put whatever it is that you put on, how are they making you feel? Because I do think at some point you just kind of disconnect from what you're wearing, because you're just like, I'm just going to put this on and this is what I always wear. And or this is what is expected of me. And there is no connection there. So that's kind of step one, is to become aware. So we go through this exercise with my clients in those two scenarios I mentioned, with a bad day in your closet and a good day in your closet. And you answer these three things. You write down, what are three adjectives that describe how you're feeling in that moment in your closet. So reconnect with the feeling that you're having. Then what are, based on how you're feeling in that moment, what are two actions you might actually take on that day, given how you're feeling? And then finally, what is one result you might expect on that day, or you might experience on that day? And so I have them go through that exercise, both for a good day in their closet and a bad day in their closet. And it's amazing how different those two, how different the answers are for those two. So that's kind of one piece, is just the awareness of, how do my clothes make me feel? And if we've kind of shoved those feelings down for so long, or just kind of done what we think we're supposed to do for so long, we won't be able to even connect with it. So that's one piece. But what you're talking about is something else. When we were having our pre-podcast chat, is these rules and expectations that are surrounding us. And I think it's true for anyone. I know it's very prevalent for women, just in terms of how we're supposed to look, what we wear. You mentioned skirts, high heels, even certain colors. And these experiences, these rules, these beliefs, sometimes they're adopted from a very young age. And, we've been living our whole lives following these rules that may not make any sense anymore. And so when I'm working with women on this, I work exclusively with women. So that's where my examples are going to come from. But, it might be someone made a comment to them on the playground about their body or their style, and it sort of just stuck with them. And it then forever kind of shaped their behaviors and their actions. Or it might be that, as you mentioned, you were in a workplace and you saw everyone around you was dressing in a certain way. And so you thought, oh, okay, I better dress in this way because this equals success at this place, or it equals me getting a promotion, or the boss liking me, or whatever the case may be. And so we sort of self-sabotage ourselves by negating setting aside what we may want for ourselves, or what may actually light us up, in favor of what we think we should be doing, or what the rule is. And I find that when we go through this exercise, some of these we're aware of, that we've been carrying along for so long, and some, they're kind of so far under the surface that they've become like a subconscious. So that's a really interesting exercise to go through, because I do believe anytime you're wanting to make a change with your style, the first step isn't to actually go to the store. My belief is that the first step is we got to kind of dig below the surface. If you want to make real change, you got to kind of figure out what's holding you back. Because if there's these rules and expectations that are driving you, they will work to self-sabotage. So by the time you get to the store, even if you have the best intentions to make a change for yourself, those rules are going to have such a strong hold on you that it will actually prevent you from making an effective change.
Well, and I think about how you see sometimes people, and teenagers will do this, they'll wear something rebellious, right? The goth look or whatever it is, because they like it. But is it because they like it, or is it because it's the opposite of what they're supposed to do? And so noticing why we're actually doing the things we do. I wanted to ask you about two things. First of all, how do we show up? Because there are places that there's appropriate wear, or there's we want to dress for success, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to wear what I feel like wearing today. And maybe that's a tracksuit or whatever the case is, workout gear and yoga pants, not ideal for certain situations. And so how do we reconcile that? It's the first question. Second thing is that why is it that when we look in our closet and in the morning and we're getting dressed, is it sometimes something will, like, that'll make us feel really good one day, And the next day it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So first question being like, how do you reconcile with what you really want to wear with what maybe you're supposed to wear? And I find I'm having this conversation a lot because women who are in the working world, there are certain, their companies may have dress codes still, although I know many workplaces are going to a dress for your day, which is which has actually made things, I think, a little more confusing for women in particular, perhaps men too. But I do think that even within a framework of needing to align with a certain dress code, there are ways for you to express your own uniqueness. So for example, okay, I'm working with a woman. She's a senior executive in healthcare sales. Okay. So she's going to conferences, she's speaking a lot. And she says, when I go to conferences, there is, a lot of black suits, and so when she and I worked on this, we talked about, okay, is black what you like to wear? Well, no, but it's kind of a just a safety blanket for me. It's kind of like, even if I were to wear a colorful dress, I seem to always kind of grab for my black blazer because it just feels like maybe it's a little safer. And as we dug a little deeper, she kind of, realized that actually I'm maybe a little bit afraid to step out and wearing color because then I might get a little more attention than I'm used to. And so this was much more than just kind of, wearing black because she saw everyone around her wearing black. There was kind of multiple layers to this. And so the more we talked, she discovered, actually, I see other women who show up at these conferences, and if they come and they're wearing a bold color, I'm so drawn to that. I kind of wish I could be that person. I'm so in awe of like how that confidence they're showing up with. And so, for her, the goal was definitely, I want to stand into my role a little bit more. I want to be open to more opportunities as I grow in this role and in this industry. And I'm ready to start, making myself more open and more visible. And along with that, she said, I'm not wearing black because I really want to. I'm just doing it to hide. So let's explore starting to wear some color. And what we did with her is, within her color palette, we started to wear color, but maybe it was like in a burgundy, like what I'm wearing today, or it was in a beautiful teal. So it's not like we're going, from black to bright pink. But it was kind of like the next step on the rung that allowed her to kind of step out of her shell. And what happened actually is, as we started to do that, then she was like ready to go. She had one step in and she was like, I really like this and I'm ready to go with more color. But hopefully that answers your question in terms of like, even within a framework of needing to dress in business casual or business formal, you have those choices of, what color combinations am I wearing? Or am I wearing a monochromatic look? Or what is it that speaks to you or says something about your personality? Let's see. And then your second question is about the closet. Or did you have anything else on that before we move to the next question?
No, I think that's great. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So the second question of, when you go into your closet and one day you're loving something and the next day you're not. I mean, honestly, there are just days where you feel into something and you just don't feel into it the next day. And I think that's okay. And I like that, having options in your wardrobe that you love, multiple ones that you love, but there might be a day that, an item is a little bit tighter fitting or a little bit more body hugging. It just doesn't feel great because maybe, you're bloated or, whatever is going on. That's okay. Like, it doesn't mean you don't love the piece. It's just that maybe you're not into it. The other thing I'll speak to is color. I've found I had this kind of interesting, I was doing a little my own research on color and what color meant to me and why I was wearing certain colors in different settings. And, especially like when I got up to speak or when I was on stage or in big meetings. And I was trying to connect this idea of why do I grab for certain colors in certain situations and other colors in other situations, because color has meaning for all of us. And there are some universal meanings around color, but there's also individualistic meanings around color. And I found that when I'm needing to step up and do something really big, speak, have a big meeting, make a big ask, I was wearing one of two colors. One is this burgundy color. You're getting to see it today. And another was some form of blue. So I know for me, and that's when I'm working with my clients, we're working to develop a power color, which is a color that looks great on your skin and also gives you sort of that confident, energetic, put you in that confident, energetic mood. But as I explored more about color, I realized on Fridays, when my energy from the week is kind of waning and, ready for the weekend, I was leaning a lot of Fridays. I was wearing this sort of reddish orange color, which was very energizing for me. And so without even me realizing it, I was kind of like pulling for that as a jolt of energy. I find I wear a lot of mustard yellow color, and that yellow is shown to kind of be like if you want to go to a social networking event and you're wanting to get out of your shell, that will probably get you some attention. So like when I'm going to a social event and I'm knowing I'm probably a little shy just because I'm naturally introverted, I kind of pay attention to what I wear. So that was a little bit of a two-parter answer to your question, but this idea that you're going to feel some things certain days and other days you're just not going to feel it. Some days I want to go all out with the color, and other days I just want to be wearing neutral, or a certain feel of the fabric. And I think it's just natural to have, sways in your mood and how you feel, and then just to have a wardrobe that gives you options to be able to say, yeah, I'm not into that today, but tomorrow I might be, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. And so thank you for that, because sometimes, I know that I've looked in my closet and I go, why is it that, something will sit in my closet for a while and I won't wear it. And then I'll go through a season where I want to wear it a lot. And then I don't want to wear it again. And it's interesting. And again, psychology, right? So let's talk about the red sneaker effect.
Yes. Okay. So, speaking of like wanting to dress to fit in, there was a research study called the red sneaker effect. And this is the idea that I think a lot of us believe that, the best way to succeed is to kind of dress like everyone around us, whether that's our industry, in a workplace. But this red sneaker effect, this research study kind of flips that idea on its head, because it says that when you're doing something with your dress, and one of the examples they gave in this study was, let's say a man wearing a business suit and he's wearing a red bow tie, or maybe he's wearing red sneakers, like Converse sneakers, if you guys can sort of visualize this look. When you're intentionally doing something out of the norm, that can actually convey status, confidence, and power. So we feel like we want to sort of fit in with the crowd, but if you're actually wanting to, show your confidence, show that you're secure in yourself, that can actually be a way to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's kind of a similar study that was done by the Harvard Business Review where, again, this idea that this really strong pull to fit in versus stepping out. Again, people who are, kind of intentionally straying from the dress code, they appeared more confident and competent because that ability to do, have sort of that courage to do that showed that you had a higher level of autonomy and control, is what that study showed. So again, we think one way, but there's this reality is that the way you're perceived, or maybe the way even you feel when you do something like that, can really change how you show up in that situation. So for women, it might be, if you're really comfortable in black, but maybe you want to put on a colored heel, or wear a brightly colored scarf, or just do something that is out of the norm. Maybe it's a pair of sneakers with your pantsuit instead of a nice pair of heels. That says something about you.
So it's interesting because I do like to wear a lot of black, and I've asked myself why that is. Part of it, I think, is that, there are certain colors like fuchsia look really good on me. And, I remember when I was growing up and my mother was learning about color, because she was a color consultant, actually, an image consultant. And she discovered that I looked good in pink. And I mean, everything I got from then, I was like fuchsia sweatshirts. And here I was, this total tomboy, and wearing fuchsia sweatshirts and fuchsia pants. and shorts and this. And I was like, I am over it. I'm over the pink. Like, stop giving me all this pink stuff. But I was polite. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I didn't really want to say that I don't want to wear that. So, but I would just stuff some of that stuff in the bottom of my closet or something. And my mom's like, why don't you wear that? So, but I do like black. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've often thought about designers. When you look at fashion designers, a lot of them wear black. And I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed like Tony Robbins almost always wears black. Harv
Yes.
Eker almost always wears black. So there's a lot of transformational leaders and influencers and so forth that like almost exclusively wear black. And I almost
Mm-hmm.
wonder if it is because like designers, they create these extraordinary designs,
Mm-hmm.
but they're wearing black. If there's
Mm-hmm.
something about that in terms of like the output, it's putting all their
Mm.
creativity somewhere else. And maybe that's a justification for me
It
wearing black.
could.
I don't
It
know.
could. I think if you're someone like Nicole who says they love to wear black, what you want to ask yourself is, do I really like this color? And I think to your point, with designers wearing black, it's interesting when you look into like the meaning of colors. Every color has a variety of meanings, but black in particular, on one hand, black can mean sort of like darkness and death. And on the other hand, it can mean sort of high fashion because that's become such a color of New York fashion and just that whole world. But what I would ask you is, and this could be any color in your wardrobe, we're talking with Nicole right now about black, but whatever color you're wearing predominantly, what I want you to ask is, why am I wearing it? And do I really like it? And is it a way for me to express who I am, or do I just really personally love it? Or am I doing it for another reason? And those can be many reasons. Like when I was working with my client, she listed off several examples of why she was wanting to wear black. One, it was kind of a safety mechanism for her when she was in social settings. She also admitted that it was really difficult for her to kind of figure out like what colors went with what. So she said, if I just buy all black, then I don't have to think about it. And it seems more practical if I just, I'll spend less money if, I just am always buying black. So there was sort of like a financial piece to it as well. And so I would just ask you, like, dig a little to the next level. And you may come out with the answer that, yes, I like black and I like what, the sleekness of it, or just the simplicity of it, maybe, and that's fine. But the question is really, are you doing it sort of for an ulterior reason? And it takes a little work to kind of dig a little bit to the next level and see what that answer may be for you. But it's a worthwhile exercise. When I'm working with my clients on this, we kind of come up with a bunch of different examples of things that, either about their style or about their bodies that may be sort of holding them back, these rules, these expectations that they've kind of subscribed to over the years. And we go through like this 3-part exercise. One is just sort of, what is the belief you think that is kind of has the strongest hold on you? So maybe, and it may not be Nicole, but we could use yours as an example. I have a belief that wearing black is most professional, or it's most sleek, or it's most elegant, or it's just what I think I'm supposed to wear. So the next level is when, what fear does that create? This belief that we've held on to for so long. Like, and I say, like, if you don't wear black, what would happen? What's the worst thing that would happen? And so in my client's case, she might say, well, I might get attention that I'm not sure I'm ready for, or I might not know how to then put things together in my wardrobe. I'm afraid I'll screw things up or mix the wrong colors, or I might spend more money than I'm willing to, because it just seems like you'd spend more money if you have to do all this different matching. So then the next layer of that is, and for other women, it might be, if I don't dress in black the way I see everyone in my workplace doing, maybe it would cost me a promotion or my ability to continue to move up because I'm not fitting in with the way I see everyone else dressing. So these, these seemingly harmless rules, they actually have more tied to them than we realize once we start digging. So then the third step is, how then does believing this belief or holding on to this rule work to self-sabotage when you're making decisions or when you're taking action? So in the example of my client, the way that, this belief that I must wear black, it, translated into then her allowing to stay safe in social situations, kind of allowing herself to hide it. When she was in a store shopping for things, she wouldn't even consider a color option, or if she did, she would come home and then immediately cover it up with a wrap or a blazer that was black. So she just kind of had the extra blanket of security. I think in other scenarios then where you're believing black is the key to success, you would probably just not even entertain that idea of shopping for anything else other than black, because you're so afraid of what might happen if you step out of line, really. So that's an interesting exercise to go through, and whatever rule or expectation you're holding on to, this can be about your body image. It can be about a certain style you do or don't wear. I know when I've done this exercise for myself, I come up with many, many different rules and expectations that I've learned that I held on to for many years of my life that either are doing me no good or just really had no relevance, but I was still hanging on to them, and they were impacting my decisions. So
Yeah,
kind of a good reality check.
I love that, and I have thought about why I like black. There is an element of it that is the sleekness. It's elegant. It's a power color in a sense, right? You walk in all black, which I've done. It does make a bit of a statement, but it also, at the other side, it does allow you to hide. It can, in certain environments, allow you to hide, allow me to hide as well. So it's interesting. And then some days I'll be just like, my husband loves black too. And so you can imagine what our wardrobe looks like, our closet. But sometimes, and he's like, oh, I love black. And sometimes I'm like, I just need color. Like, I need to wear something with color. I know you like black, whatever, but it's not that I was actually wearing it because he liked it. It just happened to be that he also likes it. But I notice sometimes I'm like, no, I just need to wear a turquoise blue and just be in that. So it's really interesting.
That's interesting.
So let's talk about your services. And as we kind of wrap up, this has been important. And this is the foundation to really understanding why we do what we do, which I think is really important. Yeah. And then there are some things that somebody who may never have hired a stylist before is not aware of, but the things like the body type, and how do you find and figure out what your style brand is?
Yeah. So I have mentioned this before, but I have a strong belief that when you want to start updating your wardrobe or getting a new style or getting more in tune with what you like, the first step is not to go straight to a store. And the reason is most of us haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about, by this point in our careers, our lives have gotten busy, and maybe in our 20s, we had a really good connection to what our style was, but then I don't know, life gets in the way and we just kind of get into our routines and habits. So we want to go back to kind of square one. And so many of these things that we were talking about today, Nicole, are the things that I cover in, it's my half day Define Your Style Brand VIP day. And we're creating some foundations of your style. One being, we're going to define your style through a number of visioning exercises. So thinking about, oh gosh, what is it that I love? And when I see other, either public figures or influencers, or even just people I work with, or those that are in my industry, what am I naturally drawn to? What is it that I like? And it's funny, but we haven't really asked ourselves that question a lot. Like, what do I like? We've just kind of been on a hamster wheel of doing the same thing. So we do a number of different exercises to kind of connect with what would feel really good to me as a, expression of my insides on the outside. What would be an authentic expression, again, kind of like shoving aside what everyone else thinks I should be, what colors I should be wearing, what things I should be wearing to work or otherwise. So we do some visioning, but then we do that exercise where we figure out what are the rules and expectations that do have a stronghold on me. And we start to dig into that and figure out, okay, I didn't realize that was, controlling me as much as it was. Then we do a color analysis. So, if you do want to know what your best colors are, and I kind of take a maybe a less severe approach than other color consultants. I think it's good to know what colors are great on your skin, but I don't think you should also abandon colors that you really love wearing, So I help my clients kind of understand what are your best colors, but then let's figure out how to actually work what you do love into your wardrobe in a way that works for you. And then the third piece we cover in this Define Your Style Brand VIP day is understanding your body type and how to dress it. And I would say, this is the point where we actually have my clients take their measurements and we actually need to figure out what is the shape of your body. First of all, it's terrifying to measure your body. This is what I found. Number two, a lot of women make an assumption about what their particular body type is without having the facts. So this exercise is not about being labeled as like an apple or a pear, or God forbid, nobody wants to be called a fruit. But what is helpful is when you have the facts and you have the measurements, you can work and understand proportions so much better and use clothes to help balance out your body. So that's the third piece of the Defining Your Style brand, is just understanding what naturally complements what you have and what works against you, and what makes it, when you look in the mirror, what makes you feel more frustrated because all you're seeing is what you consider to be your flaws or problem areas. Learning to dress in this way kind of, changes everything without changing anything, right? It's like, we don't need a diet plan. We don't need to severely change our bodies. We just need to learn how to work with what we got. So.
Yeah. And you see people that even on stage, speakers from, all walks of life and, size and age and all of that, and stage in life. And you see women who are, let's say, for example, a little bit larger, and
Yep.
they look amazing.
Amazing.
Right. And then there are those that might be thin, but haven't gotten it worked out in terms of which body type they are and how that. And so it's really important to figure that out. And I think about when you go to just even buying jeans, and they have the high cut and the low cut and the mid and the all the things.
Yeah.
How much more easier it would be, even just on that level, to just know what works for you, so that you don't try and keep trying to try on the jeans that your friend has gotten and that look amazing on her, and then you put them on and then they don't look good on you, and you're frustrated. And it's like you're constantly, it's almost hitting your head up against a wall, trying to do something and trying to be somebody that you're not. When if all of a sudden, I know, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, and I'm sure you as well, you put on the right pair of jeans or right outfit, and it's like, oh my gosh, this fits amazing, hallelujah.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. And that's what I love is, I have, women come to me, and I would say no woman has told me that she loves her body, every single element of it. There's always something that we don't prefer. Even if we've kind of learned to love it over the years, there's always something, that every time we look in the mirror, it just bugs us, or we wish it was different, or it just, this is the body we've been given and we just really can't do much with it. But it's so fun to watch sort of that frustration disappear when we get them into the right silhouettes or to the right shapes, or like you said, the proper rise of jean. I would say that's the biggest thing, is like getting the proportion of the rise of the jean. So that's like basically how high it goes up, if you guys aren't familiar with that term, but like how high it goes up on your waist. I know even when I do this for myself, I've got to an exact measurement of knowing how high those jeans need to be. Otherwise my body just looks totally proportionate. And then you start to zoom in on, oh, what's wrong with me? That's the most fun part, is just to see women, initially being very critical of their bodies, and then getting into the right silhouettes and saying, oh gosh, I actually really like what I see in the mirror. That to me is the best gift, that I could get in this whole process, just for them to see themselves in a different way.
Yes. Well, this show is all about transformation, and it's helping women in particular, you work with women to transform the way they see themselves. I always talk about transforming the way you see yourself, others in the world around you. And it is based in beliefs and all of those things and your strengths and personality and all that. But it's also this, right? It's how you actually see yourself when you look in the mirror. And do you like what you see inside and outside? And does it match? And there's, when there's that integrity within yourself, then you can show up differently. You can show up confidently. So this has been so good. I know you have a free gift, so let's talk briefly about that and then how people can learn more.
Okay. So I have a free guide about the 6 style tips for creating memorable outfits. These are kind of like my secret style tips that I use all the time with my clients, and I teach you how to use them basically in this guide. So I think you'll have that in the show notes, perhaps, Nicole.
Yes.
So you look for that in the show notes. And then where to find me. I'm primarily on Instagram and LinkedIn. On Instagram, I'm at style.decoded. And on LinkedIn, I'm just found as Ellie Steinbrink. And that is also my website as well, elliesteinbrink.com. And you can learn all about me and my services there. I also have a blog there. So if you want to read up more on style, I have tons of different topics there that talk. I have tips about actually what to wear, style tips, but a lot of what you heard today is what you're going to find on my blog too, this style mindset and understanding that there's more to just going to the store and putting things on, and you're not going to magically be transformed, to your point. There's some internal transformation that happens too. And the outside is kind of like the cherry on top, is the way I see it.
Awesome. Ellie, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we really haven't talked about this on the show. So 475 episodes, and it has yet to come to this. And so I'm so glad that we had you to share about your experience with it. And so thank you. I appreciate it. I think it's going to help a lot of us to feel better in our clothes. So
I love that. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. And I always say leaders of transformation take action. So if you're listening out there, you're watching, take action. Maybe that is taking a look in your closet and asking yourself those 3 questions that Ellie posed to early on, and to really start to think about why you feel good in certain clothes and not in others, and how it impacts your day, just to be more intentional about it. Because I know for myself, when we disconnect, and I know this for even like all my clients, right? It's like when we disconnect from ourselves and we're not true to ourselves, we just can't show up as the leader and the most effective possible. And so if we want to be leaders of transformation in the world, we need to be in alignment with ourselves first. We need to be true to ourselves, honorable to ourselves, valuing ourselves, so that we can show up as the best possible version of ourselves. And then it's amazing, because then you just kind of then you forget about yourself and you can show up for others in a really powerful way. So I encourage you to do that and get her free gift, her style guide. It'll be on our website, leadersoftransformation.com, under the show notes for this episode. And I know it's going to be really impactful to you. So we encourage you to do that. Love to hear your stories. You can go on leadersoftransformation.com, reach out to us there. Of course, we're also on social. And thanks for being here. We look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of the Leaders of Transformation.